There are relics that inspire devotion, treasures that command armies, symbols that unite nations. But there was one chest, fashioned by divine command, that carried not only history, but the presence of heaven itself. It was the Ark of the Covenant, a vessel unlike anything seen before or after. And we wrote for him on the tablets something of all things, instruction and explanation for all things. How we said, take them with determination and order your people to take the best of it. Surah Al-Araf 7:1-5. When Moses descended from Mount Sinai, his hands carried more than stone tablets. He carried the weight of a promise, a covenant between God and his people. But the covenant needed a home, a sign to remind a restless nation that they were never alone. The command was given: build an ark, a chest of acacia wood, overlaid inside and out with gold. Fashion it with precision, cover it with a golden lid called the mercy seat, and place upon it 2 golden figures with wings outstretched, facing one another, as if guarding what no eyes could see. This was no ordinary vessel. Inside it lay the tablets of the law, etched with commandments that would guide humanity. Later, it held the staff of Aaron that once bloomed with flowers as a sign of divine authority, and a jar of manna, the bread that had sustained them in the wilderness. It was not wood and gold alone. It was memory, testimony, and warning sealed within a single chest. The people looked upon it with awe. Whenever it was carried, they felt the nearness of their Lord. Whenever it rested, they knew they were not abandoned. It was both comfort and fear, blessing and burden. For the ark was not a symbol of pride, but a reminder of obedience. To treat it lightly was death, to honor it was life. The ark went before them in their wanderings. When the nation stood trembling before the river Jordan, swollen and fierce, the priests carried the ark into its waters. The moment their feet touched, the river split, the current halted, and the people crossed on dry ground. It was as if the ark itself commanded the elements, clearing the path for those who believed. When the walls of Jericho towered above them, impenetrable and unyielding, the ark was carried around the city. For 6 days it circled in silence, guarded by trumpets and faith. On the 7th day, with a blast of horns and a shout from the people, the walls crumbled like sand. The city fell not by siege or sword, but by the presence of the ark. Wherever it went, the ark turned the tide of battle. Nations trembled at its approach. Enemies fled at its sight. It was more than an object. It was a throne of power upon the earth. Yet for those who carried it, it was not victory alone, but responsibility. They could not treat it as a charm, for its power did not belong to them. It was a trust, a covenant, a reminder that their strength came only from obedience. But humanity forgets. Even when miracles are before their eyes, pride creeps into hearts. The people began to see the ark not as a trust, but as a guarantee. They believed its presence alone made them invincible, forgetting that without faith and humility, it became a burden rather than a blessing. The ark was not theirs to own, it was theirs to serve. Its story had only begun. In the years to come, it would bring victory, but also terror. It would be carried into battle as a weapon, only to fall into the hands of enemies. It would topple idols, strike down the arrogant, and vanish into mystery. But in its creation, in those early miracles, the ark stood as a blazing reminder. God is with those who obey, and no power on earth can resist his decree. There are moments in history when nations forget that symbols alone cannot save them. They cling to relics as if wood and gold can shield them, forgetting that power belongs not to objects, but to obedience. The Ark of the Covenant was the greatest sign ever given to a people. Yet when hearts hardened and arrogance blinded them, the very chest that once brought victory became a witness against them. So they denied them, and we seize them with a punishment from the heaven for their wrongdoing. Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:9. The Israelites had entered their land, but their faith faltered. The ark, once carried with reverence, began to be treated as a talisman, a guarantee of victory, no matter how corrupt their lives had become. In the days of the prophet Samuel, when enemies pressed against them, they brought the ark into battle, as though its presence alone would force triumph. But God is not bound to human pride. The Philistines met them in fierce combat, and for the first time the ark did not bring victory. The armies of Israel were struck down, their soldiers scattered, their camp overrun, and the unthinkable happened: the ark was captured. The very sign of God's covenant was carried away by foreign hands. Panic spread like wildfire. In every home, people tore their clothes, ashes filled the streets, and mourning rose louder than the cries of battle. For them, it was not merely the loss of a relic. It was the loss of God's presence, the breaking of their hope. They had treated the ark like a charm, and now it was gone. But the ark was not silent. In the land of the Philistines, it became a terror. They carried it to the temple of their god Dagon, setting it beside the idol as a trophy of victory. At dawn, they found Dagon fallen, his face in the dust before the ark. They lifted him again, mocking what they did not understand. The next day, they returned to find the idol shattered, its head and hands broken, lying before the ark like a corpse. Fear rippled through the city. Then came the plague. Tumors afflicted the people, sickness spread, and cries of agony filled the streets. Wherever the ark was taken, disaster followed. City after city begged for it to be removed, until the Philistine lords gathered and said, "Send it back, before we all perish." They placed the ark upon a cart drawn by oxen, and to prove that the plague was no coincidence, they sent it unattended toward the border of Israel. The oxen, unguided, walked straight across the land, lowing as they went, until they reached the fields of the Israelites. There the ark was received again, but even then, fear lingered. Some men, careless in their curiosity, peered into the ark, treating it as an object to be studied rather than a trust to be honored. They fell dead on the spot, struck down for their arrogance. The ark was not a tool of human pride. It was not bound to one people, nor subject to their will. It was a reminder that the presence of God is both mercy and fire. For those who walked in faith, it was blessing. For those who approached it with arrogance, it was destruction. Years passed, and the ark was kept in guarded places, moved only with reverence. The people had learned their lesson. The ark was not a weapon to wield, but a throne to serve. When King David rose to power, he longed to bring the ark to Jerusalem, to make it the center of the nation once more. With music, dancing, and joy, the ark was carried. But even then, a reminder of its power struck. When the oxen stumbled, and a man reached out to steady the ark with his hand, he fell dead instantly. David himself trembled, realizing that even kings could not treat it lightly. At last the ark was brought to Jerusalem, placed in a tent, and honored with offerings and songs. It became the heart of worship, the reminder of God's covenant. Yet even then, its story was not finished. It would one day be placed within the Temple of Solomon, hidden behind the veil in the Holy of Holies, seen by no eye except the high priest once a year. The ark had traveled from battlefields to foreign temples, from fear to glory. It had toppled idols, humbled kings, struck down the arrogant, and lifted the faithful. Yet it remained the same, a chest of wood and gold, powerless on its own, but terrifying and mighty as the vessel of divine presence. The Ark of the Covenant was never about the chest itself. It was about obedience, humility, and faith. When treated as a relic of pride, it became a curse. When honored as a trust, it became a blessing. Its journey across nations proved one truth: power belongs only to God, and no people, no king, no army can control his will. The ark had been created as a sign, carried as a weapon, captured as a prize, and feared as a curse. But its greatest chapter still lay ahead, when it would find its place in the temple, and then vanish into mystery, leaving behind one of the greatest enigmas in history. Sacred objects rise and fall with the nations that guard them. Yet the Ark of the Covenant was unlike any relic. It was not bound by time or rulers. It was the throne of the divine presence upon earth, a chest of mystery, a vessel of power. Its journey had carried it across deserts, through battles, into the hands of enemies, and back again. But its greatest chapter began when it found its home in a house built for the glory of God. Indeed, we destroyed generations before you when they wronged, while their messengers had come to them with clear proofs. But they were not to believe. Thus do we recompense the criminal people. Surah Yunus Dalthudritriven, when Solomon, son of David, ascended the throne, he resolved to build a temple that would stand as the center of worship, a place where the ark would rest in honor. Craftsmen labored for years. Stones carved with precision, cedar brought from distant lands, gold hammered into plates to cover walls and doors. The temple shone like a jewel in Jerusalem, a beacon of faith. At its heart was a chamber unlike any other, the Holy of Holies, a place no man could enter except the high priest, and even he only once each year, on the Day of Atonement. Into this sacred chamber the ark was carried. The scene was one of awe. Priests lifted the ark with reverence, trumpets blared, and the people bowed in silence. As it was set in its place beneath the golden cherubim that Solomon had crafted, a cloud descended, filling the temple with glory, so thick the priests could not stand. It was as if heaven itself had touched the earth. The ark was home. For generations, the ark remained within the Holy of Holies, unseen yet central, hidden yet defining. The people prayed toward it, knowing that beyond the veil it rested as the symbol of their covenant. Pilgrims came from across the land to see the temple, to worship, to bow before the God who dwelt above the ark. It was the heart of a nation, the pride of a people. But history is never still. Kingdoms rise and fall, and even temples crumble when hearts grow arrogant. The people of Israel turned again to corruption, their rulers to injustice, their priests to hypocrisy. The warnings of prophets fell on deaf ears. And so, as with every nation before them, the judgment came. Armies marched upon Jerusalem, the temple was besieged, and destruction loomed. It is here that the mystery of the ark begins. When Babylon came, when the temple was plundered and its treasures carried away, the ark vanished. No scroll records its fate, no conqueror boasts of seizing it. No people claim to have preserved it. The chest that once split rivers, toppled idols, and filled temples with glory simply disappeared. Some say it was hidden beneath the Temple Mount, sealed away in secret chambers before the invaders arrived. Others whisper it was carried by priests into the wilderness, hidden in mountains or caves, awaiting the day it would be revealed again. Legends arose in Ethiopia, where guardians claim it rests within a chapel, watched over by monks who never leave its side. Others believe it was taken up into the heavens, removed from earth until the final days. What is certain is this: the ark, once the center of worship, was gone. The Holy of Holies stood empty, the temple desecrated, the people exiled. The silence of its absence was deafening. For a people who had treated the ark as their guarantee, its disappearance was a lesson carved in loss. No object, no matter how sacred, could replace obedience to God. Yet the ark's legacy endures. It taught that God's presence is not contained in gold or stone, but in faith and humility. It revealed that power cannot be stolen or wielded like a weapon. It belongs only to the one who grants it. It showed that when nations honor their covenant, they rise, and when they betray it, they fall. Even today, the Ark stirs imagination. Historians search for it. Explorers chase legends, storytellers weave tales of discovery. But perhaps its greatest mystery is not where it lies, but why it was hidden. If the Ark had remained, would humanity have turned it into an idol, worshipping the chest instead of the one it represented? Perhaps its disappearance was itself divine wisdom, a reminder that faith must never rest on relics but on truth. The Ark of the Covenant remains one of the greatest enigmas in history. It was created as a vessel of law and mercy, carried as a sign of victory, captured as a terror, enthroned in a temple, and then vanished into silence. Its story echoes across centuries as both inspiration and warning. For those who walk in obedience, it is a symbol of hope. For those who chase power, it is a reminder that even the holiest of objects can be taken away. And so, the Ark lives on not in sight but in memory. It is a story whispered in Scripture, a mystery that haunts history, a reminder that what matters is not the chest of gold, but the covenant it carried. Its presence shook nations, its loss humbled a people, and its legacy endures as a warning to all who forget that power and glory belong only to God. The Ark of the Covenant was more than wood, more than gold, more than relic. It was a bridge between heaven and earth, a throne of mercy and fire, a witness of history. And though its resting place remains hidden, its lessons stand clear. No kingdom lasts forever, no temple stands eternal, but the covenant of truth endures beyond time itself.